Hey everybody, in this tutorial we're going to talk about getting started with motion paths in iClone 7.3. So with 7.3 we've made a couple of improvements and we'll talk about those as we go along, okay? But on the screen right now you can see we have this house, simple looking house from our content pack Toontown, and we have a little UFO here as well. Pretty cool looking UFO. Alright, what we're going to do is we're going to make our UFO kind of circle around the house, just like you saw in the introduction there. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. The first thing we need to do is create a path for our UFO to go onto. Okay, so let's go up here to create and create path. Okay, pretty simple stuff. And then when you move your mouse along the viewport, you'll see a little indicator there. That's going to be the first point of our path. If we want, we can just click and add a point in our path, and then click again and add a second point. And if you get to a situation like this where you're kind of, need to maybe change your camera angle, you can do so, and the easiest way to do so is by holding the Alt key. That's important. Hold the Alt key and right-click your mouse button or left-click your mouse button for pan and rotate, and you can move your camera along, whatever. But as soon as you let go of the Alt key and you left-click, then you're going to add another point to your path. Okay, so let's add a few points around our house just like this. And if you want to stop adding points, you can right-click. So your path doesn't have to be infinite by any means. You can have a path that ends at some point. But if you want to close your last point to the first point of your path, well, then you can just go up here and with your path selected, of course, just select Close Path. And you can see those 2 points will connect automatically with the path. So now we have a full loop for our path. And you may notice as well that maybe the color of the path is a little bit hard to see right now. So what we can do is we can change the color of our path up here using this color swatch and change it to something maybe like a nice bold red. Okay, and you can see it's much easier to see at that point. We can change it to like a nice dark blue. I generally recommend, these strong colors like this. Maybe for this particular background, the dark red might be better. Okay, very easy to see. Okay, so that's how you can change your the color of your actual path. Now let's talk about editing the points of the path. To edit the points of your path, just make sure it's selected. And you can also rename your path, by the way. So right here we have path. Let's just double click in the scene manager here, and we'll just call it, Mr. Curvy. Alright, that's fine. Good name for a path. And what we're going to do here then is edit the points of the path. We don't want our UFO scraping along the ground there. We want it to be a little bit higher. So what we can do is go over here to Edit Point. Okay, and then we can select the individual points. You can see our mouse cursor will turn white as it mouses over the point. We select it, and we get our typical transform gizmo with a little bit of addition. I'll talk about that in a moment. So again, you can move along the blue Z axis by clicking on the arrow. You can move along the red X axis and the green Y axis by clicking those individual arrows, clicking and dragging on those individual arrows. And you can click on the little squares there as well to rotate along multiple axes. In this case, the green and the red axis by clicking that yellow box there. All right, you can do the same thing for all the other path points as well. You can bring them all up like this, and this one we'll bring up there as well, right? And if you want, you can also select multiple points at the same time. And the way you can do that is by clicking and holding Control and clicking on the other points. Okay, so hold Control and click on multiple points, and then you can bring them all up simultaneously, just like this. Okay, let's bring this one up separately, just like that a little bit. Okay, this one, our beginning path point, will be up there as well. Okay, so now you may have noticed that there's actually a little bit of a different control tool on our transform gizmo here, and that's the Bezier curve tool, this red kind of baton looking thing right here. Okay, if I want to, let's go ahead and use this one here. This is used for kind of creating more natural type of curves. If I go ahead and click on it like this, and I just go ahead and click and drag on the control arm right there, you can see we can widen and, kind of smooth out our curve just like this. So the Bezier curve editor is really useful for this type of editing for your path. Okay, this is new with 7.3. And if we, we can do it on the other axes as well. So the Z axis, if we want, we can bring it down like this. We'll talk more about this a little bit later as well. We can actually break this baton up so it's you can modify the path in different ways. But let's just go ahead and leave it like that for now. Okay. So then once we're done editing our path, all you need to do is go ahead and click on the edit point, and now it'll be disabled. Now you can select other things like the house or the mothership node is what it's called here in the scene manager. Okay, so let's talk now about getting our UFO to be attached to our path and move along the path here. Well, the easiest way to do that is just select your UFO, right-click on it, and go to Path, and pick a path. And then we're going to pick the starting point right here for our path, just like this. And you can see in the Modify panel, in the Attributes section, there is a section for Path. You can also use the P hotkey to get to this, okay? So closer to the bottom here. And you'll see a path position and everything. So the path right now selected is Mr. Kirby, alright? And if we want, we can just go ahead and play back our project. Nothing's going to happen because we don't have any animation for our path yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way to the very end of our project, and it's only about 500 frames. And let's go to path position. Let's set this to 100. Okay? And you can see then we create that kind of like little white trail of dots there. And that indicates the path animation. Okay, so we go ahead and play back. Our UFO is going to move right along that path. Pretty cool stuff, okay? So we have it just kind of slowly going to there. We go back to frame 1 there. Now, right now the path position is at 100 if we go to the last frame. Okay, what we can also do is we can set this to like 300. So we can have it loop around the same path 3 times, okay? So 300, and then if we play back, you'll see it'll go once, twice, and 3 times a lady UFO within that certain period of time, okay? Let's just go back to 100 at the end of the frame here. We don't want to be looping around too much, and we'll work with that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the Bezier curve editing. If we just go like maybe to something like this. Say, you know, for example, at the 100 point. So right here, we want it to kind of land and take off again at the very end point. So, you know, what we can do is we can, you know, take, it doesn't really matter what position our UFO is in here. What we're going to do is go back and select Mr. Kirby in the scene manager here and go up to the top and edit point. And let's edit this original point here. Now, like I mentioned before, you can select the Bezier curves and, you know, move it along like this. And it doesn't really matter your what your position in the timeline is. This is going to be the project. Your path is not going to change at different keyframes in the project. Okay, so let's keep it like this. Now, what if I wanted to say, for example, make it, you know, a sharper turn? I didn't want it to be so smooth with these Bezier curves. Well, what I can do is I can right-click on the point there, and I can select Break Tangents. And when I do that, you'll see that the kind of baton handlebar, whatever it is for the Bezier curve editor, kind of turns into a dash, 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 like that. And then we can select the individual parts, like this, and we can move this one down, or move it up, like this. And do the same thing for the other side. So you can see when we do this, we create a much kind of a stronger curve, kind of like a pointy kind of curve right here. And then we can just go ahead and select that one point and just move it down like this. Okay, so maybe at this point our UFO at the very beginning and end, the UFO will be kind of touching the ground. Okay, so it'll look like this, and then let's start off from that position as well. Okay, so you can you know, break those tangents. You can reunify them as well if you want. You can right-click and unify tangents. Okay, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to press Control-Z to undo that and take it back to this point right here. Okay, so now what if you wanted to, you know, change the rotation of the position of your UFO as it's moving along the path? Well, that's pretty easy to do, actually. You can just go ahead with your UFO selected and press F3 to go into the timeline. And there's our mothership node. The most important track we want to open here is the constraint track. So let's go over here and select our constraint track. And you can see in the constraint track, if we twirl that down, we'll have all the path stuff, because the path is actually a constraint on the prop itself. Okay, and if we move along, you can see it'll just go along right here. Now, the one we're going to focus on right here is path offsets, okay? And this is going to be adjusting the transform position of our prop as we move along. So I'm going to go to the last frame here. I'm going to click on the end, and it'll go to frame 500 here. And I'm going to press the E hotkey to bring up my rotation gizmo, and we can rotate our little doodad here, UFO, otherwise known as a UFO, and rotate it, you know, however we want. Okay, there's no limit on the number of rotations we can do. So at this point, you can see it added a keyframe right there, a little keyframe in the path offsets track. Okay, I'm going to set it to like 100 or 1,000 rather, 1,000 right there. And then you can see as we move along the path, just like this, the UFO will begin to rotate. Okay, so you can see it rotating over there, and it's rotating, rotating, rotating as we move along here. If we turn on our viewport GI, we can see the light a little bit better. Okay, it's like this. Okay, it's like the police UFO or something like that. Okay, so there we go. We created that nice looking rotation there. We can also change the position as well, like the position, the tilt of the UFO as well. So if we go over here, for example, we can have it maybe tilt a little bit along this way, just like that, and it'll add a keyframe there in the path offsets track. And then maybe over here, we can have it tilt the other way, just like this. Okay, so then it'll tilt kind of from here to here, just like that, and then maybe here we'll have it tilt this way, and then it'll kind of just land at that point. So if we go ahead and play this back, we'll get a nice smooth kind of takeoff and a tilting just like that, and then keep in mind it's rotating as we're tilting it, so it's going to be a little bit of a wobbly movement from the beginning. You see it kind of wobble right there. All right, good enough for me. So that's all we're going to talk about for the basics of path editing. We have some more tutorials that go into more details on different things you can do with paths and using them to manipulate the paths or the transformations of your props on your screen. So thanks so much for watching, everyone. Hopefully you learned a lot in this tutorial, and make sure you check out our forums over at forum.reallusion.com, and I hope to see you in the next video.